What is history? Is it what we hold true in our hearts as tales are passed down from one generation to the next through oration or text? Does the passage of time allow for accuracy to ever exist truly? Underneath the sheen of the new, we see the grime that coats our world's past. Pentiment is a game where you decide not only what is going to happen, but how history will remember it. Bereft of any voice acting and light in its graphical scope, your choices will fully shape the city of Tassing in 1500s Bavaria as it toils under the grip of its local abbey, Kirsau. As traveling artist Andreas Mahler, your choices will shape the very foundation of the town's future in this lovingly crafted, historically accurate narrative adventure game from Josh Sawyer and a team of only 13 at Obsidian. It may be a niche within a niche, but I think Pentiment stands tall among the giants of the genre. So let's break it all down in the XboxEra review. As always, I will do my best to give as much objective fact and subjective learning as I can from my time spent beating the game. Only once so far, though I will be back for more. It's going to be rather difficult with Pentiment though, because everything about this game is tied to the story. It is one you craft through a series of choices that occasionally you don't even realize you're making. The game starts out in the small town of Tassing in Bavaria, which is modern-day Germany. This is a time of great political and religious upheaval in Europe, as things tend to be, with constant wars, peasant revolts, and the dangerous teachings of Martin Luther dominating the landscape. Tassing is controlled by the abbot of Kirsau Abbey, which dominates the background scenery throughout your time in the game. Kirsau is the home to an order of Benedictine monks and nuns who run a library and one of the last scriptoriums in the Holy Roman Empire. Your journey begins as the young traveling artist Andreas Mahler of Nuremberg. Andreas is working on a commission in the scriptorium alongside 3 monks while also attempting to finish his masterpiece. Why Andreas is there? His past, present, and future interests are all up for you to decide. My version of Andreas had stopped in Tassing on his way back from a journey to Florence, Italy. I chose for him to love nature and astronomy and in general be a kind and caring person. Pentiment's greatest strength, outside of its incredible writing, is the level of control that you are afforded over both the character you play and the world they inhabit. While the biggest plot beats of the game appear to be set in stone, everything around them, who lives and dies, the town's overall fortunes, and even who committed certain crimes, is your choice to make. This is a mystery game at its heart, but it's not always about the who committed a murder. Instead, your choice is the canon answer for that playthrough, and you must deal with repercussions of said decision. Consequence is the heart of Pentiment's journey. This is not a game worried about quick movements or reaction speed. You must weigh the power that you wield over the fate of others at all times. The right thing can lead to a terrible conclusion that you never intended if you don't think things through properly. Sometimes your faith in others is rewarded though, and the risk you took in being honest and forthright was the correct decision. I beat the game in roughly 20 or so hours, and I'm itching to play through it again. Knowing what I know now about my first playthrough, can I save those I lost and damn those who I know deserve the worst fate? These haunting questions come from the game's excellent writing and its use of different fonts to convey how Andreas perceives the person he is talking to. The learned have fanciful fonts that start out as outlines which are then filled in with a rich black ink that quickly absorbs into the paper. Townfolk's vocations, like the printer, will lead to a stamped and immediately available typesetting that is clear and easy to read. Others who can't read or write get a very basic script with misspellings being quickly erased and written over time and time again. The devotion to detail is staggering in its amount, especially when the main team on the game was so small. Despite being an Obsidian and Xbox first-party title, only 13 people seem to have worked full-time on Pentiment. It is a clear labor of love from the team that would never have been possible without a service like Game Pass offering it up in a way that makes publishers worry quite a bit less about sales. This is a niche title for lovers of history, especially that of very late medieval Europe. It's also a niche title as it is a narrative adventure game with mostly light gameplay elements and 0 voice acting. While there are a number of accessibility options I'll get into later, this is a game made up almost entirely of reading lines and thinking of how to respond to them. Your responses will occasionally lead to a success or failure check where choices are shown as either blue pass or red fails in a list. Did you tell the local doctor just how incredible he was at every turn? Success is yours and he'll be a bit less of a right ass to you for a while. To convince the local abbot to let you exhume a grave, you better hope you didn't upset him too often, otherwise his fury will be palpable should you go ahead without his blessing. The next section will be handled by my partner Amanda. She majored in history and knows far more about this period of history than I ever could.
Pentiment takes a strong influence from The Name of the Rose and The Pillars of the Earth, which isn't a bad thing. In fact, it's a great thing because those books are awesome, and they show us that people in the past are actual people. Pentiment does the same, and if you are not a scholar of history, I think it's singularly important to know that people of the past are not that different from us. They gossiped, they held grudges, they judged each other, and they hated authority. As a historian, it makes me so happy to play a game that is, quite simply, a love letter to probably my most favorite era. Pentiment gets a lot of things right, even down to the way people walked. I was pleasantly surprised to see the characters walking with the balls of their feet first, because our ancestors didn't walk heel first until the evolution of shoes with hard soles. If you wish, you can change the appearance of the dialogue into historically accurate fonts. Members of the church write in a traditional Gothic font with loads of flourishing serifs. The regular schmegulars write in slightly different cursives and secretarial fonts. The bookmaker and his family write in lettering blocks, etc. And if you want to go a step further, you can turn on the historical letter S, which looks like a lowercase f without the center cross. As was written in illuminated manuscripts, important words are written in red or blue, such as red for God or Jesus, and blue for a specific emphasized word. The amount of work and love that went into this game is a testament to the creator's determination for accuracy. The artistic choice is perfect because you are inside a story of the past, and stories have always been so important because it is how our ancestors experienced history, and it was the most common form of art since anyone can participate in a story. Since most people couldn't read, it was how they learned morals, it was how they passed down history, and now we get to be inside their story.
Graphically, the game features beautiful period-appropriate art that is animated well. It's not a looker at first glance, but if you appreciate the era and the staggering amount of work that must have gone into creating all of these drawings, it really is something incredible. Technically speaking, it's the type of game that should run well on almost anything gaming capable. I reviewed it on Series X as well as checking out the Windows Store version on my PC. I had 0 cases of stuttering or lag on both, and it was a fantastic, rock-solid, bug-free experience. Forza or Gears, this is not. But in its own way and at its own modest scope, I think it looks pretty darn nice. The game's soundtrack is rather sparse, with its never-ending ambient noise making up most of what you'll hear. When it does kick in during various moments, like a nun singing in church, or a jaunty tune accompanying a harrowing chase, it is damned good. Featuring a mix of classics performed specifically for the game and new tunes, it matches the setting well. Outside of the text, all being in English, because of course it has to be, I felt like I was experiencing something with an extreme dedication to accuracy at all times, and that came through the most for me in the music. The game features a few very helpful accessibility options. While you can go for supreme accuracy if you wish with the text settings, there is a "let me just read this easily please" one that I think most may default to. The older font choices look gorgeous and convey a lot about each character, but they can be tough to understand if you're not well versed in calligraphy and the like. There is also a text-to-speech option available as well, which offers up a machine voice narration for the in-game text, and is great to see as this would be unplayable for those either blind or hard of sight without it. Being on Game Pass helps give easier access to those who may be put off by the premise initially. It is a testament to the types of games that creatives can take a risk on that otherwise would never have been released in the old, mostly focused on sales system. The gameplay is basic, with you moving left to right and vice versa across certain paths and then pressing A to interact. Quite frankly, it's boring to move around the city most of the time, and the story is slow to start. Those would be my main 2 issues, and I can see a lot bouncing off of this title before they ever even get to the mystery, which is a real shame. Wrapping things up, Pentiment is probably not going to be the most popular thing. I do think, however, that it will become a cult classic. I can't think of another game from a first-party publisher to tackle a subject like this. Nothing about it feels forced to try and earn the most money. Instead, it is a labor of devotion to telling a brilliant story at a very specific period and place in our past. Life may rarely go the way we want, but there is power in our choices, and I'm glad that Xbox allowed this game to be made. It's a unique, dazzling work of art that will stand the test of time for as long as we remember it.